Hi, I'm Dr. Beth Jones, and I'm your professor for Biology 115, which is the biology lab course. So that means that all of you are enrolled in a Biology 105 lecture course, or you have been previously enrolled in such a course, and you're a biology major or a science major, and you are moving forward with your studies in biology. So I wanted to take this time to go over the syllabus with you and explain how our labs are going to work in this very altered environment that we find ourselves in as a result of COVID-19. So let me start up here. You'll find a copy of the syllabus that's attached to your email, okay? So you'll have this on hand for yourself. Also, starting Monday, August 17th, Blackboard courses will go live, meaning that you can log into the Blackboard page for this course, and I'll have this video as well as your syllabus posted there. So you'll have multiple places where you can find all of this information, okay? So let me just get my pen here all ready to go. Oops. Hopefully you've heard something by now, or you will by the end of this week hear something from your biology professors. Let me get rid of that. For your lecture, and you'll know how your lecture is going to move forward. So, and if you have questions about that, please reach out to your instructors. We are required to get in touch with students by this Friday. So if you don't hear something by this Friday, go ahead and reach out. They may have missed you or something on your roster. Okay, so this is the syllabus for our biology lab, and I want you to notice, first of all, that I am teaching two sections of biology lab, as you can see here, 115-6 and 115-7. Those both occur on Wednesday, and this syllabus will apply to both of those sections, okay? Here is my contact information, so you can reach me via phone. That is actually my office number, but that rings to my cell phone now that I'm at home right now. So if you do choose to call me, it will ring to my cell phone, but it will only identify as a number coming from FMU since it is forwarded. So that means that if you get voicemail, please be sure to leave me your name and your callback number, because that won't be stored in my phone. Another way that you can contact me, and probably the best way, honestly, to contact me would be to email me at that address right there. I also will be hosting office hours starting on Monday, August 17th. And those office hours are going to be Mondays from 1 to 2:30 p.m. or Thursdays from 2 to 3:30 p.m. Now, if for some reason these office hours conflict with other classes that you're in, or maybe your work schedule or something, I'm happy to meet with you by appointment, okay? All you need to do is just shoot me an email, and I'll be happy to set up a time to meet with you. Now, one quick note about my office hours this semester is that they are all going to be online. And the rationale for this is that biology professors, we all share a set of office suites. So if you were to walk into our office, there's a lobby area, and then the offices sort of extend off of that lobby area like spokes on a wheel. So our biology professors, we all sort of have a shared space. And so what we have made a commitment to do for each other in the biology department is to minimize student traffic in our office spaces to protect one another from COVID infection, because professors, we're mostly old. And so because of that, we have opted as a group to have our office hours online using the Zoom platform. And I will have information on how to enter my Zoom office hour appointment room or whatever on Blackboard as well, which again will go live on Monday, August 17th. Okay, so let's talk about what the structure of the course is going to be this semester. This lab is going to be quite different than it ordinarily would have been as a result of, number one, being online for the first 3 weeks of the semester, and then number two, we are trying to keep classroom density to a minimum to avoid the spread of COVID-19. So First and foremost, the first thing that you need to notice, this is our calendar for our labs, and there will be no lab the week of August 17th. So no lab for week 1. Okay, and that's just going to give everybody an opportunity to get acclimated to being back after so long at home and to get our lecture courses in order. But beginning on August 24th, you will have an online set of labs, and I will be sending you another video at some point before August that week. I think our lab will actually be on August 26th because we're a Wednesday lab. But I'll be sending you a video that is going to tell you how to access our online laboratory simulations. We are using a program called Labster, and basically it's going to walk you through a series of experiments that you will, it's sort of almost like playing a video game, and then you'll answer questions about what you've done. We're providing this at no cost to you, so you don't have to do anything other than you will navigate to the Blackboard page for your course, and then the Labster simulation for that week will be a link on that page that you'll click on, and it will take you directly to the Labster simulation, okay? So that's what's gonna happen for week 2, which is that week beginning August 24th. Again, I think our date is the 26th. The following week, we will have another online lab, but in this case, it'll be a video that I make for you of me performing an experiment and generating some data, and you will then work that data up according to some instructions. Again, all of this will be posted for you on Blackboard, as well as the instructions for how to work up the data and to write what we're going to call a results section of a lab report, okay? Beginning this week, we will start in-person laboratories. Now, what does that mean? Well, we are very much trying to reduce the number of students that are in any classroom at any given point in time. So there are approximately 20 people enrolled in each of these lab sections. To keep these numbers low, what we're going to do is assign you to either an A or a B group. And so, for example, the week beginning September 7th, Group A will come to class in person and they will perform this experiment, while Group B remains at home and does an online laboratory using that Labster platform I just told you about. The following week, we will swap. So everyone's going to do the same things, it's just that the opposite group will be in person. Okay, and that's how we will function for the remainder of the semester unless something changes with regard to COVID infection rates and we're told to go back online. And if that happens, I will be reaching out. We have a contingency plan. I'll be reaching out and I'll tell you exactly how things will change. So these are the labs that we will be performing during our laboratories, okay? And then each week you're going to have an assignment associated with that lab and then an assessment associated with that lab. So what that means is for this particular lab, for video and data analysis, for the scientific method, I will have you do some homework that week, and that will be a results section of a lab report. The following week, before we start lab, you will have a quiz that will cover this week's material. So this quiz 1 will actually be this following week, right before the next lab, if that makes sense. And I'm gonna talk more about that later, okay? So you can see here what will be your assignment for each week, and then you will have a quiz each week on the previous week's laboratory that you performed, okay? Now let's talk a little bit about attendance at these labs. While we're online, we're going to say that the laboratories are what we call asynchronous. And what that means is basically you can log on at your leisure to perform these Labster simulations or to watch this video and data analysis, okay? So you can do that at any time. You don't have to do it during the scheduled lab period, but they have to be completed by the due date, and that will be listed for you in Blackboard, okay? But once we move to in-person labs, this is a participation-based course, so as long as Francis Marion asks us to remain in person, you will be expected to attend on your assigned date, okay? Now, what happens if for some reason you become ill due to COVID or anything else and you feel like you need to stay home? If you become ill and you need to quarantine, please let me know and I will work with you for the duration of your quarantine. Now, what you need to note is that according to CDC guidelines, if you suspect that you've been exposed to COVID or you have tested positive for COVID, you are supposed to quarantine for 14 days. So there's a couple different ways that we will make things up, and we'll talk about those a little bit later. But if for some reason you are unable to attend for longer than 14 days, you have two options at that point. You can withdraw from the course, which I will tell you more about later in this document, or if you want to petition to go fully online, you are welcome to do that, but that would happen through our Office of Counseling and Testing. That would be requesting a formal accommodation to go online, okay? So that is something that you would do that's beyond me, okay? That's someone else that you would talk to. Also, once we open up and go online, when you are in class, you will be required to wear a mask. This is not a subject that's up for debate. If you go to the FMU reopening plan, which is here, you can get more information on our official mask policy. When you are indoors or when you're outside and you can't socially distance, masks are required on the FMU campus. So if that presents a problem for you for some reason, again, I'm going to refer you to the Office of Counseling and Testing to request an online accommodation, but just know that masks are expected if you are on campus. Now, what you probably really want to know about the course is how you will be evaluated. So this is a 1 credit hour course, and this grade is separate from your lecture grade. In a lot of your other classes, as you move forward in biology, you'll find that your lab and lecture grade are mingled together, but that is not the case for this course. This is a standalone 1 hour credit. So the way that you'll receive a grade are by looking at these 3 items: quizzes, assignments, and then an overall lab report that you will write. So let me back up for just a second. When I say assignment, I mean whatever item I've asked you to complete affiliated with the lab that you're doing that day. So if it's a results section or a conclusion section, sometimes it'll just be the score that you get off of the Labster module. Those are things that would constitute your assignment grade. And you can see that that accounts for 200 points out of a total of 500 for the semester. Quizzes are just that. They're little tests that you'll take at the beginning of each lab period on the previous week's material. And again, you can see that that will account for 200 of your points. There'll be 10 quizzes at 20 points each, 10 assignments at 20 points each, okay? The last thing that you're going to be asked to do is write one large overarching lab report about one particular lab. So let me go back up again. Here's our schedule. What I've chosen to do to teach you to write a proper college level lab report is for the first few weeks, we'll be breaking the lab report into sections and it will count as a homework assignment. So you can see we have a results section, conclusion, and introduction section. But by this week here, we're going to perform an experiment examining cellular respiration. And you'll have your normal, this is going to be a set of questions that you'll answer that will count as the assignment for that week. But then you will have a lab report that is assigned to you that you will write that is all about that particular laboratory. And that report, I'll give you 2 weeks to finish that. Think of that almost as like a term paper for the class, okay? Now this lab report is one assignment, but it is a big deal assignment. It's worth 100 points. So it's worth 20% of your grade. So again, really think of this as like a term paper or a major exam in this course. And the way that I deal with lab reports, I'm trying to teach you a skill that you're going to use moving forward. So what I will do is you'll write me the report and you'll turn it in to me here. I'm going to grade it and I'm going to assign you a grade and I'm going to return it to you this week here. okay? When you get it back, you will have the opportunity to make corrections on that lab report and turn it back into me, and I will grade it a second time. Now, you don't have to do that. If you're happy with your first grade, you can keep your first grade. But if you opt to make corrections and turn it back into me, I will average this grade here with your corrected grade to give you an overall lab report grade. My rationale is I want you to correct your mistakes because I believe that's how you will learn to write these reports, okay? All right, what else? Let's talk about quizzes for a second. While I want you to do, when we're online, if you're at home doing a labster simulation or during these first couple of weeks that we're online, you can perform the lab simulation at any time that you'd like. But quizzes are the one time that you need to pop into class either virtually or in person to take these quizzes, okay? So quizzes will be given on the previous week's material, and I will give them, they will be online or in person for the first 15 minutes of your lab period. So for these weeks that we're online, or if you happen to be online doing a labster simulation, you'll go to Blackboard, the quiz will be active, you'll click on it, you'll take your quiz, and you're done. And then you can finish this week's lab assignment at your leisure. And the reason that I do that is to avoid cheating. When you're online, if I let you take the quiz whenever you want, there's very little that prohibits you guys from collaborating with one another. And I really want these quizzes to represent your own individual work, okay? Notice that I have told you that there are 10 quizzes that make up your grade, but I actually have 11 quizzes scheduled. So that means that you get to drop your lowest quiz grade. Or if you become ill and you have to miss a lab for whatever reason, and you just can't take one of the quizzes, that's one of the ways that we can account for some illness for you without having to do a lot of makeups. The same is true for assignments. Assignments are due when we come, like for the previous week's assignment is due the next week at the beginning of lab, okay? There are 11 assignments planned, but I'm only taking a grade out of 10. So if you complete all 11, I will drop your lowest grade, or if you have to miss a lab, then that will just be how we account for that and you won't have to do any makeups. Now let's talk about tardiness. If you're online and you're not in person, you still need to be on time virtually to take your quiz because the quiz is going to be active for the first 15 minutes of a laboratory period. So if you log on to Blackboard after the first 15 minutes of your lab period, you will not have access to the quiz and you will forfeit your right to take the quiz. So please be sure that you're coming on time to lab so that you can get these quizzes done, okay? This is what I just told you about the lab reports. Okay. Let's talk a little bit more about quarantine and makeup policies. If you're feeling ill, please do not come to class. We want you to stay home and be well. We don't want to spread this to our fellow students and professors, so stay home if you do not feel well, okay? If you need to miss class, there's a couple of different ways that we can make things up for you. First of all, depending on when you get ill, it might be that you can miss that week's in-person class and tuck on to the next week's in-person class, but that all really depends on the timing of your quarantine. If that's not possible, you'll be excused for one in-person class because an extra is built in and online due dates could be extended for you. But again, please note that these accommodations are made for 2 weeks, which is the duration of the 14-day CDC recommended quarantine. After that, if you need additional time off from class, you would need to request that via those mechanisms I mentioned earlier. One thing that we're doing this semester that's pretty nice, and if you're a new student to college, this is not normal. This is very much a nice thing that FMU is doing to account for any hardships that you might experience as a result of COVID-19. We're extending the deadline for withdrawing without academic penalty. So what does that mean? Well, if you withdraw without academic penalty, it means that all that shows up on your transcript is a W. So it shows that you were enrolled in the course and that you didn't complete the course, but it does not count toward your GPA. So if you were doing really poorly in this class for some reason, I hope no one would. Usually labs, usually people see success in labs if they're doing all the work and keeping up. But if you were for some reason doing poorly in the class, you can actually choose to withdraw up until 5 p.m. on the last day of class. So if I go back up to my calendar up here, 5 p.m. on the last day of class is going to be this week of November 9th, which would be actually the 11th for us because we're a Wednesday. So up to 5 p.m. on November 11th, you can decide to withdraw from the class if you're not doing well, okay? And if you want to if you get to that point and you want to chat with me about whether that's the best choice for you, then I'm happy to have those conversations with you. One thing that I have had trouble with at the end of the spring semester, and I want to work hard to avoid this term, is some problems with academic honesty. So when you're remote, it is very tempting because we all use the internet so much to help us learn things. It's very tempting to look up things we don't know on Dr. Google, right? But if I'm giving you a quiz, my quizzes are an expectation that you've learned the material and that you are answering for yourself and that you're not using internet resources. So I have some mechanisms I'm going to put in place to make sure those quizzes are secure, and I'll talk more about those later. But just know that in general, anything that you turn into me, whether that is a quiz, whether it's lab questions, homework assignments, or your overall lab report, all of those should represent your own unique and individual work, okay? If I suspect that there's been cheating, I will institute an academic penalty. So that means you'll probably get a 0 on the assignment, and I will report you to the appropriate university office. And the thing that you need to know is that according to the FMU handbook, if you have multiple offenses in the same course, you can fail the course. And if you have multiple offenses throughout your time at FMU in multiple courses, you can be expelled from FMU. So don't be tempted. I know it's tempting because it's a high stakes environment being in college and trying to get your GPA to be as high as it can. But don't be tempted to do that. Now, one way that I can ensure that no one is cheating is we're going to use something, we're going to use Blackboard. You're going to turn things into me via Blackboard, particularly written assignments. And what Blackboard is going to do is it's going to use a database called SafeAssign, where it compares your writing to internet sources and it compares your writing to other student writing. And it will send back a report to you and to me that will give us what's called a plagiarism index. And basically it looks at how much of your paper is similar to other papers that are out there, okay? Only papers with a plagiarism index below 25% will be accepted. So that's actually me being quite generous. That's almost like saying a quarter of your paper can be plagiarized, but that's not really the case because sometimes, you'll have series of words that naturally occur together that the database will flag as plagiarized when really you're just using common terminology. So that's why I give you 25% as your benchmark. And what I typically do is because, you're new to writing and you're new to writing at the collegiate level. So what I usually do is I have it set on Blackboard so that you can turn things in multiple times to see what your plagiarism index is. And if it's above 25%, you can rewrite it and turn it in again up until the due date. Once the due date happens, then that's when you stop turning it in, and whatever plagiarism index you were at is where you'll stop. But I think that's really helpful because it allows you to turn something in and realize, sometimes you don't even realize that you're mimicking the language that you read in an internet online source. It's very easy to copy something without even realizing you're doing it. So this has been a really useful tool in the past, and students have really liked being able to see how and where they're being flagged for plagiarism reports. Now, I have mentioned Blackboard a number of times. We are going to use Blackboard heavily this semester because we're going to have a fairly extensive online component. That means that you need to make sure that you are checking it regularly and that you have consistent internet access and consistent Blackboard access. By the time we get to labs in 2 weeks, you should know how to use Blackboard. Hopefully that'll be something that you learn in your lecture courses. If that's a problem, I'm making a video for my lecture courses on how to use Blackboard, and I'm happy to share that with you. I also have for you here the number for campus technology. If you're experiencing any kind of a glitch with Blackboard, you need to reach out to them as soon as possible. Chances are if you're experiencing that glitch, somebody else is too. And they'll get on it and they will work to fix it as quickly as possible. It's also a good idea to shoot me an email if you're having issues with Blackboard, because that helps me to understand why students may or may not be accessing my course material, okay? The last thing that I want to talk about is access to me. So I mentioned office hours and how they are going to work. I want to encourage you to use them. You know, please, if you have any questions, I am here to help you. You know, the purpose of the lab is really to support what you're learning in lecture. So, and I do teach the lecture that goes with this course. So if you have any questions at all, please use me as a resource. The one caution that I will mention, the absolute best way for you to get timely responses from me will be for you to ask me questions when you have me in person for lab, or to use office hours. I actually teach a lot of freshman courses in my fall semester. So that means that I have large lectures. I teach 2 105 lectures, 2 105 labs, and a university life course. So for this semester, I have somewhere in the ballpark of 160 students. Given that this semester is going to be online for at least a portion of it, my guess is that students are going to use email a lot to communicate with me, and that's absolutely fine. But it might take me a while to make my way through those emails. So if you email me and you don't hear from me in a day or two, it's fine to reach out again, but don't panic. It might just be that I haven't had an opportunity to respond, because my anticipation is that I will have a great deal of email traffic this semester. So, take-home messages from this little blurb on our syllabus. You have a reprieve. Take the first week of classes and just get in the groove of your lectures. I will see you on August 26th. I will see you virtually. You don't necessarily need to log in right at that time, but I will reach out to you again via email with another video, just explaining everything for you, making sure that you remember that you do have lab that week, and letting you know how that will work. So I'll show you how to use Labster. I'll let you know when all your due dates are. So just be checking your email to look for another video from me, and I'll also post everything on Blackboard for you. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out, and I'm looking forward to working with you this semester. Bye-bye.